While the Metroidvania genre has become one of the more popular within the indie gaming scene, there are so many now that it can be difficult or even intimidating to determine where one should begin. Yes, many folks just like yourselves are curious about exploring these games but might want to know which are the best of the best, the cream of the crop, the ones you don't want to miss. Here are 10 of the greatest Metroidvania games in the indie scene. Do note that these are the opinions of one man, so let us know in the comments below which games you think belong on a list such as this. One last thing, I will not be including multiple games from the same franchise. Speaking of existence, however, do you want independent content like this to continue existing? Well then head on over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames. You can gain Discord access, early ad-free shows, exclusive live stream shoutouts at the end of every video we produce, and even free games depending on the tier. Your new indie gaming community is waiting for you. If not, be sure to like and subscribe and help us bring a voice to the voiceless ones in gaming. So let's get into the list. At number 10, we have Timespinner, an excellent time-traveling romp that combines elements of sci-fi and dark fantasy. Developed by Lunar Ray Games and published by Chucklefish, this exciting adventure sends you on a quest for revenge against the Latium Empire. What's really cool about Timespinner is that things which are changed in the past will impact the present. For example, obstacles that once stood in your path can be removed in one time period so they don't impede your way forward in the other. Both the past and present are showcased through great pixel art, and the soundtrack manages to sound both gloomy and energetic at the same time, which helps to give the game a strong atmosphere overall. With excellent controls, combat, and character building, Timespinner plays just as lovely as it looks and succeeds at pretty much everything it sets out to do. Timespinner is a must-play for fans of Metroidvanias, and there's no better time than now, as a sequel has recently been announced. At number 9, next we have a game that features some really great mechanics, visuals, and audio design. Developed by Labsworks and published by Dangan Entertainment, Astalon, Tears of the Earth is a Metroidvania in an 8-bit style with modern gameplay touches. Players will initially control one of 3 characters, but eventually swap between them all. We have Algus the Mage, Arius the Warrior, and Kayuli the Rogue. The world is being poisoned by a mysterious source, which comes from a tower filled with Gorgons. So these brave heroes set out to identify the source and bring it to an end once and for all. In an act of desperation, Algus has made a pact with Epimetheus, the Titan of Death, where he and his comrades will be prevented from dying before their task is finished in exchange for giving himself to the Titan upon success. This brings about an interesting mechanic where you can use orbs collected in the tower to purchase character upgrades. The only major penalty for death is starting at the beginning of the tower, but all shortcuts and fast travel methods you have unlocked will remain open and you'll keep all your items. With plenty of hidden rooms to discover and even new characters to recruit into your party, exploration is greatly rewarded and different gameplay modes can be unlocked as well. Astalon excels in gameplay, story, characters, and presentation, earning it the number 9 spot on this list. At number 8, developed by Team Ladybug and WSS Playground, also published by them with the help of Playism, Touhou Luna Nights puts players in control of Sakuya, a maid who is serving the vampire Ramelia Scarlet and is sent into a magical world created by her master. Some of Sakuya's abilities have been taken away from her, so she'll need to explore the world around her in order to regain these lost powers. Her main form of attack is throwing knives, but she'll also gain spells that require magic points to use, along with the ability to freeze time, which is super helpful in a game like this. It actually ends up being a major part of the gameplay. It'll help in both the bullet hell sections that players encounter and also help in getting through the environments. Thematically, Touhou Luna Nights is a mix of sci-fi and dark fantasy with an absurd sense of humor, though admittedly, it doesn't always make that much sense. That said, this one has some of the best gameplay and presentation you'll find within the genre, and if you end up loving this one, be sure to check out others in the series as well. Here at number 7 is a recent underrated release that completely blew me away. Developed by Kumi Souls Games and published by Playstack, The Last Faith is a Souls-like Metroidvania that draws influence from Blasphemous, Bloodborne, and Castlevania, yet has a feel all of its own. Players will control Eric, a cursed man desperately attempting to save himself, as well as others who are becoming afflicted with a blight that is spreading across the lands. There are multiple character classes that can be chosen at the beginning of the game, but they are more of a starting point than a dedicated character building path, and you can customize Eric to fit your playstyle as he levels up. Creating a build that matches the weapons and abilities you want to use and upgrading your weapons of choice is just as important as gaining skills and and learning enemy patterns. The mix of character building and exploration works very well here, and the gorgeous pixel art mixed with a brooding soundtrack gives the game a strong gothic horror atmosphere that is easy to get drawn into. Engaging, compelling, challenging, and well-balanced, The Last Faith is a great success that deserves more attention. But I have faith that this next game is even better. At number 6, it's another Souls-like Metroidvania classic. Developed by White Rabbit and published by Serenity Forge, Death's Gambit Afterlife puts players in control of the fallen warrior Soren. Soren has been given a second chance by death, but at what cost? Players can choose a character class for Soren at the beginning of the game, with the choice being pretty critical to how you want to play. Thankfully, you can test out each class type through a trial, which will give you a feel for each of the classes. After you make a selection, character building will involve increasing stats with gained levels and choosing abilities through a skill tree in order to customize Soren to your playstyle. The gorgeous pixel art and gloomy soundtrack fit the story and theme very well, and the challenging gameplay is quite rewarding. Death's Gambit Afterlife provides a satisfying experience for those seeking a Souls-like action RPG, but it's also a great Metroidvania with compelling action and exploration. Now for another release that features strong action RPG elements, number 5, Sword of the Vagrant is a game that combines both the elements of Vanillaware-style action RPGs and a Metroidvania structure, which results in a fantastic product. Developed by OTK Games and published by Sakura Games, Sword of the Vagrant places players in control of Vivian, a sword for hire who is looking for clues to continue her father's research. She inevitably gets pulled into the plans of a scheming sorcerer who seeks to bring about great changes in the land. While the look of the game and the feel of the combat are more akin to games like Odin Sphere and Muramasa the Demon Blade, the exploration elements here are more like a Metroidvania with a huge open world to explore. The dark fantasy theme is implemented very well, and the wonderful hand-drawn art provides an interesting adaptation of barbarian swords and sorcery. The character building consists of skill tree attributes, weapon upgrades, and choosing techniques to fit your preferred combat style. A hard-driving, energetic soundtrack makes fighting feel all that much more fun, and you'll feel like a badass as you slash your way through hordes of monsters and undead abominations. There are multiple difficulty options and a great New Game Plus feature that adds to the replayability, so players of all skill levels should give this one a try if it catches your interest. Sword of the Vagrant is one of the best indie action RPGs and Metroidvanias out there, and it comes highly recommended. Alright, at number 4 is a game that takes influence from Souls-like titles, but isn't fully committed to the idea. Developed by Livewire and AdGlobe, and then published by Binary Haze Interactive, Ender Lilies, Quietus of the Nights is a very atmospheric take on the Metroidvania genre that has a look and feel that really needs to be experienced to be fully appreciated. Players will control a girl named Lily, who awakens in an abandoned church within a cursed land. Here, the rain transforms the living into unimaginable horrors known as the Blighted. Lily possesses the ability to purify this blight, and she will recruit the souls of fallen warriors to protect her as she seeks to put an end to the madness. Each soul will have a different form of attack, helping Lily as she travels and evades dangers. Multiple souls can be recruited, but only one can be used at a time, and choosing which soul is the best fit for the challenges you face is essential. The gameplay is every bit as lovely as the gloomy visuals and soundtrack. It's a gorgeously dark product. While the game is difficult, it isn't as brutal as the Souls-like influences might suggest. Ender Lilies is a great Metroidvania experience, and I advise adding it to your collection if you've yet to do so. Hey, we're at the top 3 for this list, and this is where things get ever so difficult. Regardless, all 3 of these games are masterpieces in my eyes, and they represent just how awesome indie Metroidvanias can be. Must-plays coming at you, starting with number 3. This one is an example of a game that gets so much praise that those who haven't played it might feel skeptical about how any game can live up to such hype. However, it deserves all of the praise that it gets because it's truly excellent and has become a cultural phenomenon that turned into one of the most iconic indies of all time. Developed and published by Team Cherry, Hollow Knight manages to be dark, atmospheric, challenging, and oddly cute simultaneously. Players will control the Knight, an insectoid warrior wielding a sword-like weapon called a nail, also equipped with spells that allow for ranged attacks. The subterranean world of Hallownest contains both hostile and friendly insectoid creatures, and the use of dark and cool colors paired with the minimalistic soundtrack creates a captivating atmosphere. Like Ender other Lilies, Hollow Knight takes some Souls influence in its combat, but not to the extent of being a full-on Souls-like. While the game does present a difficult challenge, it isn't to the point where it will feel overwhelming. That said, you need to be willing to put in the effort to memorize boss patterns and engage in precision platforming if you hope to survive. Hollow Knight is often regarded as the go-to example of a modern-day Metroidvania, and with good reason. If you want to experience the best of what the genre can offer, this is an excellent choice. Of course, I, like many of you, am also eager to play the announced sequel when it comes out. It has been multiple years since Team Cherry announced the creation of it after all. That game is to be Hollow Knight Silksong, and while a new trailer for it will occasionally show up in showcases of upcoming games, it still has no release date all these years later. I know that Team Cherry are perfectionists, and they're likely making sure that the sequel will be good enough to be even better than our expectations, but the waiting gets more painful the longer it goes on. At this point, it feels like it's all been a cruel tease, and when the release date is finally announced, we might just get rickrolled. Onward, number 2, developed by Artplay and published by 505 Games. Next we have Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night. Igarashi was the co-director of the genre-defining game Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and is a legend of the industry. After leaving Konami, he decided to go the indie route to create a new game that followed his vision, and the result is this excellent titan of the genre. Players will control Miriam, a shardbinder whose body has been manipulated by alchemy to allow the storage and use of demonic energy. She can wield a variety of weapons with different attack styles that can be upgraded, and she can also obtain magical abilities from binding the souls of defeated demons to her body. With a leveling system combined with numerous options for weapons and magical abilities, there is a great variety for potential character builds that adds to the replayability, because the game will take on a very different feel depending on the build. Bloodstained takes the RPG elements of the Igavania subgenre and turns them up to 11 by implementing a large number of side quests, systems for crafting, and cooking, which all pay off if you put the effort in to use them. The game also has a system of buffs and ability enhancements that can be obtained by having certain books from a library in your inventory. With these innovations, a beautiful 2.5D gothic horror world to explore, and an energetic soundtrack that stands up with the best that Castlevania has to offer, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night successfully modernizes the Igavania subgenre in the best possible way, and I keep coming back to it even today. I've put hundreds of hours into this game since it released, and it still doesn't feel old to me. This is a classic that is a must-play if you enjoy the Vania side of the genre. Well, hey, you made it to the end of the list. Thank you so much. We hope you've enjoyed all of the games featured so far, but someone has to take number 1. The original Blasphemous is one of my favorite games of all time, and is certainly worthy of being on this list, but for the sake of variety, I'm choosing the sequel instead. The original was so great that I couldn't even imagine anything topping it, but I was in for a pleasant surprise. Developed by The Game Kitchen and published by Team 17, Blasphemous 2 takes everything about the first game and not only makes it better, but also introduces new systems that add to the depth of the gameplay and character customization. Players will again control the Penitent One as he returns to face the godlike being known as the Miracle that is causing suffering in the land of Custodia. This go around, you will be given a choice of 3 different weapons with unique attack styles that are also able to bypass certain obstacles in the environment. Which weapon you choose will determine the order of the areas you're able to explore early in the game, which makes things pretty exciting. The RPG elements are increased this go around as well, with more character customization being available and additional depth that adds to the replayability. Custodia and its inhabitants are again portrayed with some of the best pixel art one can find in a modern game, and animated cutscenes have been added for story progression. Blasphemous 2 is one of the more dark and brutal games you can play, and it's also one of the most beautiful and compelling. This is a true masterpiece that is one of the best examples of greatness in both Souls-likes and Metroidvanias, and it has quickly become one of my absolute favorite games of all time. If you're up for the challenge, then Blasphemous 2 is one of the most satisfying experiences you can have in this genre, and it raises the standards of excellence in Metroidvanias. So thank you so much, folks. We hope you enjoyed this top 10 list of some of the greatest indie games of all time. As always, be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this content, and head on over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames to support our message of bringing independent developers a voice. Also, be sure to check out OK Nia over at twitch.tv/idreamofindiegames. She streams every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, all of the latest indie game releases and some classics too. Thank you so much as always, and I will see you on the channel for more great indie gaming content.